What's up, everybody? We're back with a brand new episode. It's overreaction time for spring training, and will a new stadium attract more fans? All this and more on the Raised Rewind podcast, coming to you right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast.
Raise Rewind with Bushman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
What's up, everybody? It is the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast out there right now, presented to you by Sick Media. Welcome in, everybody. It is myself, the great Bushman, and as usual, my co-host Drew. Welcome in, Drew. It's been so long, and guess what? New logo.
I know.
New platform. New YouTube page. New hat. New hat. I got a new hat. I got a new beard. You got a new beard. That's how long
beard.
Isn't that? I think that's how long since we've done the shows.
I haven't shaved since our last show.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Basically.
As usual, everybody, make sure to hit the notification bell and subscribe button on our YouTube page. Welcome in. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking all things, spring training, since spring training is going on right now. And then we'll dive in deep into a question that was proposed today by the Tampa Bay Times. Will a new stadium attract new fans and fans alike? But let's get into it. Drew, spring training is in full effect. Social media is in full effect with everybody overreacting on how the Rays are going to do, even though it's spring training, and the players are just there to work on things and see how they do in the lineups, see what kind of lineups that Kevin Cash is going to put together during the year. Let the newer guys that have come in kind of strut their stuff to see if they're going to make the team and see what the 40-man roster is going to be. What have you seen so far? I mean, what have you taken away from these past couple of weeks with the Rays? What have you seen? What has stuck out to you the most?
Yeah. So today's game honestly was probably the best
offensive production they've had.
Yeah, offensive for sure. I would say just honestly with just the feeling of some energy with the team. I felt like today was the first time all spring that I really felt a little more optimistic about how the team looked.
Which is kind of funny because we talked about that after we did our recording of the teaser trailer last night about this team just looks kind of like meh right now.
Yeah.
There's no pep in the step. There's no funness. And you know what? Maybe they were hearing us last night via our telepathic powers via the Rays Nation. So I agree with you. I think the alerts I got today, of course, having day jobs like you and I have, it's tough to watch these games live, but you can get play-by-play via Twitter. But what I was looking at and seeing the clips, it was, like the bats came alive. And I think we'll see more and more of that as the weeks go by, getting closer to the season where some players are going to get into their groove. The ones that really need to make the team, or the ones that obviously the veterans that are in the lineup already going, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to start not slacking off anymore and just, get my reps in before the season starts. That way I can be ready and good to go. So I agree with you. I think what we saw and heard today was an offense I'm hoping to see during the year, because obviously the Rays have always been a team that's been struggling to have runs scored. Now, obviously the first month or two of last year was nice, but then, obviously when we hit July and the summer months, which we talked about in our previous shows, where it starts to peter out and runs are hard to come by. So, I think what I'm really hoping to see is a lot more consistency with this lineup. Obviously we do have a couple of new additions too as well. And a couple of subtractions, one notable that we won't name on this show. But I want to see that. That's the type of lineup I want to see during the year, instead of one that's just going to give us one or two runs here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's hard to, for me, it was hard for me to put my finger on what it was about the team coming in. I've just felt a little more pessimistic, which
Oh, you
the
took
team,
a page out of my book because I'm
yeah,
usually like that.
the team won 99 games last year, but I have just felt as a product of some of the additions other teams in the division made, and then a team like Baltimore that they added Corbin Burns. They looked great last year. They're just full of young talent and they have more coming. You just kind of think that things just really went their way last year. They just didn't have injury bug didn't really bite them at all. It just kind of felt like they're just building a lot of momentum into this season.
Yeah.
And the Rays, it felt like anything notable that was done really was subtraction. With Wander not being around, obviously Glass not being traded. So, and just a few other pieces that, Robert Stevenson, others that left via free agency, it kind of felt like, okay, well, any additions that we made, that the Rays made, it feels like they're a lot more unknown than
Yeah.
like last year going into the season where we had kind of a more established lineup. There was some pieces unknown like Josh Lowe and others that we were, Luke Raley, we were hoping could, show something. But the pitching staff was just so established. And then this year, you know, it it feels like there's just a lot of I don't know.
So you're nervous a little bit.
Yeah.
You're
And
You're
so
nervous.
for the team, I personally think the Wander stuff, even though the team responded well last year, they dropped off a little bit, but some of their best offensive production was in that last part of the season without Wander.
Mhm.
I by no means think they're a better offensive team without Wander, even though they had great numbers in September last year. They need him, and without him, it's silly to think they're a better, they're going to be as good of an offensive team, at least currently constructed, until we
Yeah.
see them prove it. But it just I know they responded well last year. I just worry that it's just going to kind of hang over the team a little bit. Again, I'm a vibes guy. I feel like, and that's maybe a cop out, but I worried about the vibes coming in to the season. Just felt like there's a lot of more negative than positive, given the subtractions they've had. So the lack of energy from what I can have seen with spring training thus far was a little concerning. And I'll admit it, like I definitely overreact to spring training. I'm one of those that I really want to see the team look, you know, uh, together, look polished in spring training going into the season. I'm skeptical that if they're struggling at the plate, that they're just going to turn it on because the games count.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
isn't that expected though? Because I go into each season going, all right, we're gonna compete. Yeah, I always go into it saying I'm a little nervous about all aspects of the team, even though we know what our lineup's going to look like, our rotation, especially last year going into it, where our pitching rotation was stacked. Like I had like such high hopes, and then pitcher after pitcher kept going down with injuries, and now it's like, okay, we have a wooden ship, and we're just slapping together tape on it just to see, if it doesn't leak when it comes to our rotation. And this year's not like that, obviously, because there is an unknown, because the pitching rotation is more of a question mark. I wouldn't say more than ever, but now you have a pitching rotation that is not as strong as last year, and I think that's where, yeah, it has deep, yeah, exactly. And a lot of people that look at the rotation this year is, oh yeah, they'll be able to compete, but they're not going to be like competing. And I say nay to that, because they always find a way to find wins. They always do that, and later on in the season you're going to get guys back. I'm more nervous about how the offense is going to be production wise than the rotation. That's what I'm more worried about, because how is Yandy going to have the same season as he had last year? He's coming off an AL batting title now. Is he gonna peter off? He's going to have like that sophomore slump after having a great season last year. Is that going to happen? Is Randy Arozarena going to be productive this year? And will Brandon Lau finally not get injured and be the guy be the guy he was when he hit 30 dingers that one season? So, and other question marks too. how is Renee Pinto going to be in the lineup?
Yeah.
So it's question mark after question mark after question mark, and that's usually one of the things I kind of gnash my teeth at in the offseason when the Rays are in free agency. Now, obviously, we're kind of a cash strapped organization because of upper management, and we all know why, especially when an owner says they're uncomfortable with the payroll, quote unquote. I wish they would have gone out and gotten a bat just to help out in the lineup. Obviously JD Martinez is still out there, but he's going to cost some monies because he's a Scott Boras client, and Scott Boras is the devil, and he wants people to get paid.
Is he a Scott Boras? I didn't realize.
Yeah, he's a Scott.
Like he's got more and more players than.
Yeah, he's. I think he's one of the last guys left besides Snell and Montgomery that needs to be signed. So, if I was the Rays, I'd throw some money at him. I'd be like, "Look, we'll give you a 1-year deal. All you have to do is come off the bench and hit the ball, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything else. And that's what that's what they don't need to do is they just need to hit, not play the field. But I think coming into the season and maybe with the few weeks left that we have, I think you'll see the team gel more and more with each other, especially with the newer guys coming in and then finding their way and finding what lineups work. Cash is really good about that, especially with matchups. So when it comes closer to the season, I think you'll see more of the gelling happening and more of the excitement that we're used to. I hope, obviously.
No, I mean, I think you made a good point. I think there's more question marks for sure on the offensive side. I think even if there are question marks on the pitching side, you're getting some reinforcements later in the year with Springs and Rasmussen, obviously towards in the second half. So they still got to do it for one half, of the year. But you can kind of they've got such a great track record with pitching and just finding value and finding success even when it seems like the pitching's down. They always seem to find guys that perform well and respond. And so, they've just built up such a track record. You just kind of say, okay, well, yeah, we don't have quite the names that the Rays had going into last year, but you still expect a formidable pitching rotation and bullpen.
Right. I gotta ask you, Drew. I mean, he had a good outing today. Taj Bradley did.
Yeah.
Do you think could be the year that he turns the corner and actually could be that fourth or fifth guy? Because right now projected, and I'll put this as a projected rotation. We got Eflin at 1, Savali at 2, Littell at 3, Pepio at 4, and Taj at 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if obviously when Boz comes back, you can throw Boz in there once in a while.
Right. I think Taj probably has. I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say he's got the highest ceiling of anybody in that staff. And I'm not a scouting expert. I couldn't tell you everything there is to know about Ryan Pepio, but I would venture to say Taj Bradley's got the highest ceiling of anybody on that staff based on what I've seen over the last year plus. I think that last year he was not supposed to be on the team. It was a year too early for him. He was forced into that. I think he performed as well as you could have hoped. And for someone in his position, I think it would have been uncommon for him to have excelled further than what he did.
Yeah.
And they sent him down for a time, to I think refine his approach. And I mean, I would like to think that now that he's got, that year under his belt, coming in, probably feeling a lot more comfortable about his standing with the team and feeling like he's got a stronger foundation. And I expect him to take a step forward this year for sure. Do I think it's a situation where at the end of the year, we're going to be, Taj Bradley's game 1 starter? Not necessarily. I don't think that, but if they were to make the playoffs, but I certainly think if he starts the year as our 5, I could see him being a 2 or 3 for us, given who we have available.
Right.
Because the Rays will slow play Springs and Rasmussen.
I'm eager to see how Savali does, because coming over from the trade with Cleveland, he was doing pretty well in Cleveland, comes over here and he's, I would say, so-so.
right.
so to speak. So I'm really interested in seeing how having now hopefully a full year with him and the rotation, how he's going to be in that number 2 spot, because we gave away a top prospect for him, and
Mhm.
he didn't really perform how we wanted him to down the stretch. He gave up a lot of runs and everything. So I'm just hoping coming into this rotation as the number 2 guy, he really steps up.
You you can just insert any trade deadline acquisition,
I know.
and say they did not perform as expected. Um,
Well,
yeah, it's true. I mean, not all, of
not all,
course,
no.
but I mean, Brett Phillips,
Yeah.
he did just fine. But
Can we just have him back on the team as just the cheerleader? I mean, remember
do you
how John
know? Do you know which team he is currently on? Are you aware of his current team?
I Toronto?
Because he is on a major. I believe he signed a major league deal.
Is it with
Uh,
Toronto?
no, you're
No.
thinking of Kevin Kiermaier.
The Angels?
No, he is on the White Sox.
What? Is he pitching?
No.
He should be
No,
pitching.
no.
I would love to have him back, kind of like in the Johnny Gomes role. Remember Johnny
Yeah.
Gomes was just the
Oh yeah, Johnny
cheerleader of the
Gomes.
team,
Yeah, he's too
and
nice
he
though
would,
for that. Johnny Gomes had an edge to him. Brett doesn't
yeah,
have
he
an
would
edge.
just fight everybody, which was awesome.
He's just yeah.
Yeah.
Brett would just laugh with everyone on
That's
the
true.
field. Yeah, Savali, he's a question mark too. I think for me, I just want him eating innings.
Yeah.
Obviously, doing well in those innings would be great, but if he can eat innings and give some length for the staff, that would be because I think pitchers like Taj and maybe Ryan Pepio, I think they're gonna have a shorter leash, of course. So getting
Yeah.
innings out of guys like Eflin and Savale and Littell is going to be, especially early on, as much as they can. I know that the Rays are conservative anyway, but especially at the beginning of the year, they're not pushing guys. But I think in the first half, before we get some more reinforcements like Boz and
I just hope it
yeah.
doesn't turn out that our rotation isn't that great, and when we're burning out our bullpen, which our bullpen looks great, by the way. Our bullpen's good. Like I have confidence in our bullpen. I just hope that the starters can go long where we're not burning these guys out, and by the time the midsummer nights of June and July happen, we're already burning out our guys and burning out our arms.
There's just, I think it's going to be what I'm anticipating is that it will be an uphill, and compared to last year, anything seems more difficult, especially at the beginning of the season. But I just think it's going to be an uphill battle early on because of the schedule. I think the schedule is not
It's not favorable like last year.
Certainly not last year. They opened with 4. I mean, they're at home for the first 2 series, which is great, but they're opening up with Toronto and Texas, which is going to be, you're hoping 4 and 3, and that's in those series. I think you're hoping to win both series.
You take 2 out of the 3 on those, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and so, and then you got to go on. I think they go on the road. They're going on a West Coast trip early in the season, I think in April.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of, I think it's just more of an uphill battle. A lot more. I think what I'm worried is the pitching falters, and
that's what I'm worried about.
It's off to a slow start, and then a team like Baltimore or the Yankees, they get off to fast starts with their new
but
players.
you know what? But you know what, Drew? I would rather have them start off slow, build momentum, and then get hot at the right time, because we talked about this again last night. They got hot at the wrong time. You get hot at the right time, like a lot of teams did the second half, then you're rolling into the playoffs. Just the Rays got hot at the wrong time and then petered out and went limp in the first round of the wild card. So
you mentioned question marks on the offense, and I don't want to be pessimistic the whole episode, so I will say this.
Please, it's okay.
I think that, and like I said, I tend to put a little more emphasis on spring training than probably I should. I think a lot of, it's easy to say like, they're just getting built back up. It doesn't matter if what their average is or what, but I just feel like I've watched the team so much, guys like Randy, who are really streaky, Brandon Lau, who can get in his own head so easily. It seems like so easily if he gets into a slump. I want, a guy like Josh Lowe, who had a great season last year. I know he's hurt right now, but when he gets back into baseball activities and gets back to playing, like, that he wants to come out and do well, and I expect big things from him this year. But like these guys that, I feel like it's important that they hit their stride, that they get comfortable at the plate to start. And, going into the season, I've seen enough where the team, at the end of the regular season is faltering, like in 2022.
Mm.
They were struggling at the end of the year. And, we just kind of thought, okay, well, it's the playoffs, they'll turn it back on, and they didn't do anything. And I feel like I've seen that time and time again where it's like, it's foolish to think, okay, if they don't start showing some signs
Yeah.
of getting comfortable at the plate, and showing a little production, like I'm not going to sit there and expect them to come in on March 28th against the Blue Jays and just Rain Allow going 2 for 30 in spring training, coming out and, being the guy that the Rays need him to be.
Yeah.
So I do get a little nervous when guys, aren't performing well. I want to see Junior Caminero hit bombs all spring training. He's hit one. I want him to see him do well, because I'm holding an outside hope that he's on the team. They say, you know what, we'll just sign him to a long-term deal and start him. Or they just say, we want to have him in the opening day roster. I don't really think that's going to happen, but I still want that to be a possibility, and I want him to do well.
It's going to be a possibility. I don't think it'll be at the start of the season, but it's definitely going to be a possible.
Yeah.
Choice.
But, optimistically, some of the new guys that are on the team, I'm really excited about. I think, I think the Ahmed Rosario signing was kind of out of nowhere. And from everything I've read, was way under what what people expected him to get on the market. So I'm not quite sure if it's just an indicative of people of the teams interested in him, or, what Rosario's market was, or just his willingness to play for a team like the Rays to get an opportunity. But for them to get him at was it $1.5 million?
Cheap. It was cheap.
Awesome. I think, I know that there's a lot of talk about him hitting lefties, and obviously he's very good at hitting lefties. I mean, I think he's going to be in there pretty much every day. He's going to.
He is like a Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere too.
They're going to put him in the outfield, second base, DH. I don't know. I think he's going to be in a week's worth of games. I think he's in there 5 days.
I can see him being a Isaac Paredes type impact player like that. Which when they signed him, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Like that kind of goes to show you how players view the Rays is they're a good team to play for. Obviously, they're not going to pay a lot of money, but they're good. Like Uwasawa even said, "Look, I've been watching the Rays for a long time. So the reason why I came to America is to pitch for them. There was the reason why I wanted to pitch for them. Yeah. So there is something that the Rays are doing well. I want to take it to the Rays going to be traveling to the Dominican Republic for a series there, the international flight. Obviously, there's going to be more immediate attention to this series because of a certain situation that's going down in that country right now with a certain Rays player. Do you think that's going to distract them at all? Do you think there's going to be, there's going to be some media attention on the Rays about that subject? Do you think it's going to distract them at all while they're down there?
I don't think so. It's more just trust in, the leadership they have on the team with Cash and some of the players. And then obviously just the way the organization's run, I think they'll do a good job of either insulating the players from that, or just, them reminding them that they're professionals and their focus needs to be on the game and getting ready for the season.
Yeah.
I think obviously it's going to get talked about in the media. I think it's awkward. That unfortunately the timing of it is awkward. And it's just unfortunate, because that if had that none of that happened, Wander coming into this year would probably, we could always speculate. I guess we don't know for sure, but I would imagine he was going to be the Gold Glove shortstop winner. He's an all-star. Who knows what he would have done in the playoffs, but his star would be ascending still, and he would be considered one of the best young players in baseball, probably one of the top 2 or 3 young players in all of baseball.
Right.
And it would have been a huge, thing for him.
Well, they also too, the amount of attention going on. Listen, if that stuff never have happened, the amount of attention that would be probably a broadcasted game, because hey, it's in his home country, and then you're going to have a huge
guys
crowd.
Like Devers and others, and Red Sox, other stars. So it's just awkward that it's happening after all this happened.
Awkward.
that the game's happening. And it's just unfortunate because again, it's just a reminder of what could have been and
Mhm.
what, Rays fans and what the sport is missing out on, I think, with just how things have unfolded with his situation and what it can mean, both in the short term and long term. So, I'm not too worried about the players losing focus. I think for me as a fan, it's just like I said, a sad reminder of what could have been. And I think that's, to be honest, like I think that's going to be the case for a while. I think we don't have to, we won't talk about them. We can ignore it or whatever and not bring them up. And it'll just, whatever's happening with his legal case is happening in the background. And Toppin's going to give the updates that he's going to give. But for me as a fan, and maybe this is a fault of mine, but if Junior Caminero comes in this lineup and is raking and, the team's taken off, I'm going to be pumped. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, man, if we just had Wander too, like, our lineup, just what could have been having Wander and Junior in the same lineup with Randy and Yandy and Josh Lowe taking a huge step forward. And some of these guys that they've signed, obviously, some of them in response to the Wander issues, but like,
Yeah.
it's just, again, it's just going to be a reminder. It's going to be neat to see them play in an environment like that. And so I'm excited for that. And I hope they do well, even though it's spring training. I hope the guys play well. And I'm just again disappointed, and it's just a sad reminder as a fan that
I'm disappointed too because I spent money on like PSA rated cards of his, and now I have to try and like hawk them for like less than
Oh,
whatever
you did the
amount of
card thing. See, I
yeah.
just the one jersey I bought, the one actual baseball jersey I bought the black throwback, and I paid the
Yeah,
extra to customize it for Franco and
I've got a
Wander's
few
stuff.
PSA 10 Wander Franco cards now. I'm like, well, these are worth like 2 nickels that are just
It's
strung together.
as big of a baseball fan as I am. I've never gotten into the baseball card thing. Um, so yeah, but it's gonna be great. And one other thing too, you mentioned the camaraderie of the team. I think this Dominican Republic trip, yeah, it could be a opportunity where they, it's a distraction about Wander. However, I think it's going to be a great way for the team to bond. I think,
Mm,
forcing them on a trip in the middle of spring training like this, where they're flying to the Dominican Republic. Obviously, they're going to, I don't know if a bunch of families coming, but they're going to be together a ton, all together on an international trip for a few days. Like, for team camaraderie, especially with some new guys in town. And
mhm.
I think it's going to be,
They
I'll
better
be
do it.
interested.
You know what they need to bring back? They better do what when Madden was here, remember they would do like the theme trips?
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah,
They need to bring those back.
I think teams do that in general.
Well,
Did they do a
they haven't
Yandi
they
theme
haven't done
trip? They
it in
did
a
like a
while.
dress like Yandi theme road trip last year where they all dressed
I mean, they
like
all had
Yandi.
cut off shirts. Cut off
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what the team looks like next week when they come back from the trip. If some of that energy and fun is a little more prevalent. Because I mean, they've got a fun they're gonna have a fun team. Some of the new guys,
Mhm,
Caballero, I'm really excited about with some of the talk they've mentioned in the paper about his hitting approach and how they're working on him pulling the ball in the air and giving him permission to do so, like they did with Isak, and seeing him hit home runs like he did yesterday against the Red Sox that were just was a monster shot. And him in the field, he's strong shortstop. I really like this Richie Palacios. He seems like he's got a ton of energy. I know that he's, from what I've seen online on some
mhm.
of the forums and stuff, he's pretty active on social media and loves interacting with the fans and was I think a big hit at the fan fest. And
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
saw him.
just,
I think it was him that was playing ping pong with a couple kids too.
yeah. And so
It
like they're just all young,
good. I'm excited too
athletic.
because I think I read somewhere too that they're gonna be trying and be more aggressive on the base pass this
Yeah.
season as well, which I'm look, if they're a faster, younger team that's gonna run on the base path and be more aggressive, I'm all for it.
Mhm.
I definitely am because I mean, I want them to do I want them to be that because they're usually not a team that's that aggressive on the bases. And if they've got guys in place that have that speed, I'm all for it.
Right.
I'm all for it. So
And I will say one last thing. Richie Palacios, I was not aware he could play second. Maybe that's me not doing my research. I seem to only remember him playing outfield for the Cardinals last year, and they
I
had him
didn't know
playing
he did that.
second today,
I didn't I didn't know that
which
either.
I was not aware. and he made a really athletic catch, kind of one of those in between pop ups in the middle of or over in right field, and he looked. I mean, he's athletic
Look,
and
you're
quick,
not
and
the only one that didn't know that either. So it goes to show you
yeah.
that
So
we don't do our research on this show, folks.
apparently, we're not for the thinking fan apparently,
No,
but
of course.
I'm excited. I mean, I'm hopeful that those acquisitions pay off, and then having a guy like Junior Curtis Mead or some of these younger guys come in. Not saying they'll contribute right away, but maybe first quarter of the season they get some opportunities and can make the lineup a little bit longer and deeper. I'll be hopeful for that.
We're gonna end the show on this. There was a article that came out today on the TB Times where the question was asked: is the new stadium, which may or may not get built anytime in my lifetime, if whatever the politicians have anything to do with it, will the new stadium attract new fans? The Rays, who are fourth out of the five teams out of the most winning teams in the last 6 seasons, they're the number 4 team. They're only averaging 11,000 fans per win. Do you think this new stadium, if it ever gets built, and we've seen renderings of how it might be all nice and shiny new, and it's going to be pretty much in the same area where the Trop is, do you see the attendance going up if the new stadium gets built? That's a good poll question we should do on Twitter too as well. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
If Sick Media, you guys can help us out with the polls. Let's do that. Let's put a poll up for that.
I think if it's just as simple, if it increases, I think it will. I don't.
But how much of an increase are we talking about here? Because
what's the average? You said 11,000.
we're at 11,000 per win compared to other teams. We're averaging like over 20,000.
Yeah, I would more rather do like percentage
of
capacity, because like the stadium itself, even at full capacity, is still I think a lot smaller than others.
I think we saw a little bit of it more of attendance last year because with what the Rays have done, they've gotten creative with not only giveaways and ticketing and stuff like that. It's attracting more people, and they're doing that again this year. So I'm hoping we see a little bit more of a bump with the attendance because we saw it we definitely saw it last year. When I was going to games, I was seeing more and more fans coming, even on weekday games. The attendance was up. So
you remember too, like beginning of the year. I mean, I know it was the 13-0 start, but you remember that last game against the Red Sox? That it was like a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon.
It's packed.
And so the last one before they lost to the Blue Jays. So that place was packed. It was like a 1:10 start in the middle of April, in the middle of the work week, and that place was packed. So, I mean, yeah, the fans come out. Credit to the Rays for some of the ticket stuff that they've done. Randy Land's a great promotion. I will say again, I said this last year. I had that idea back in 2021. I will.
So you owed some money.
There on my kids' lives. I had that exact idea 2 years before the Rays implemented it. Shame on me for not suggesting it. I didn't think they would actually listen, so I never suggested it. Nor do I know how to do that.
It's that telepathic thing that we have.
Nor do I know how to suggest something like that to the Rays. But I had the Randy Lane idea back in 21. Regardless, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know how much of an increase. I think their first season of the new stadium would have a huge increase. I think just out of excitement for the new stadium. I mean, if you can get, I know you said an average of 11,000 over the course of those wins or whatever that is, but like, let's say if you're getting 60% already, capacity on average, 60, 70 with a crappy stadium, and then you put a brand new, quote unquote, state of the art stadium in the same location, I think that first year or two, you're going to, especially if the team is competitive too, you're going to have
especially if they're competitive and you're bringing in more dollars to increase that payroll that Stewie has said it's uncomfortable.
I don't know. The timeline to build out the whole area is not just like it's not all going to be ready by 2028. I would imagine there's probably a couple years where things plateau a little bit. But then I think as they're able to actually fulfill that vision of having a kind of a like with Atlanta, the Battery, having like this whole experience around the stadium with all these things to do. I personally, I think I'm not saying they're going to be like a top attended team, but I think if they could get to the middle of the pack, I think It's a huge win.
All I gotta say is we're like almost in the middle of 2024, and we only got till 2028. So you guys got to get breaking ground soon. So
yeah, because pretty much they would have three full years if they started.
And you know how the weather here in Florida is. It's rainy all the time sometimes, and during hurricane season, you can't get any work done. So, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good, guys.
So we'll see. But I'll be there opening day. I've already said opening day in the new stadium.
I'll be there too. So, and hopefully we'll see everybody there too as well. So, but we're going to end the show on that note. Thanks for joining in for the Rays Rewind podcast here on Sick Media, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast out there. Make sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe button. Usually we're not going to be doing Thursdays, maybe increases during the season goes on, but most of the time you'll see new episodes drop on Tuesday nights from myself and Drew. Thanks for joining in, everybody. This has been the Rays Rewind podcast on Sick Media. We'll see you soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.